Chase the ace. Who are your hero's influences in poker, if any? That's a good question. One player who I think is a lot of people's poker hero and didn't necessarily stand out to me more than others at first, is Doyle Brunson, who in the past several years I've gotten the chance to play with him more at like very competitive, high stakes, tough games. And like I played with him a lot in a 12 game big bet mix, which is like no limit. It's like usually 500 1K, no limit hold'em, pot limit Omaha, no limit very crazy pineapple, which is a 3-card game where you discard one after the turn but before the betting. Pot limit triple draw, pot limit Badoogie, no limit single draw, no limit double draw high, PLO 8s. Why am I forgetting some of the games? Sometimes we had Big O in there. Anyways, it was a lot of games. I got to only 9 of them. This... I don't think he has a very strong hand, so I'm going to just see if I can get him to bluff. I guess I get called by like ace-10, but straight would have bet already. He says YOLO. His hand was ace, jack, with deuce-8 of diamonds. That's very loose all around. So ace jack off, deuce-8 of diamonds. I guess pre-flop is fine, but flop you gotta fold. I guess I bet really small, and it's not that bad, I guess, actually. I was thinking it was not in the blinds. I didn't realize. You could occasionally check this back. Anyways, I played with Doyle in that game and a lot of like very strong players as well. And it's not like he crushed the game or anything, but well, I don't know how he did, but he played very well, and he played very well at 80-some years old. And when you think about how many players, like when I think about how many players over the age of 40 could compete in that game, the number is extremely small, and he's not just over 40, he's over 80. And it made me realize, like 50 years ago, how like head and shoulders above the competition he must have been. I think probably in Doyle's prime, there was nobody even remotely close to how good he was. And so he's just extremely smart, has a great sense for the game. Obviously, he's built it up over many years, but yeah, he must have been awesome. And I talked to him about it. I asked him, like, hey, when you were my age, were you just like, I mean, I said, were you just much, much better than everyone? And I mean, his answer was yes, but he answered with humility. He said, you know, I was, but you have to remember back then, like all the gamblers that I played with, I was the only one that was educated, and he had a good education, and he was just playing with people that, you know, like gamblers back then were different than different kind than poker players are today, at least, you know, stereotypically, generally. I got called by turn top set with a 10, very standard by him. So anyways, yeah, Doyle's become kind of one of my idols, not necessarily an influence of mine, because I kind of only, my respect for him, always had respect for him, but it grew quite a lot in the last few years as I realized just how special he is. Down here, I am going to squeeze some only okay aces. This player's been pretty tight so far, so maybe he has, well, I guess actually people don't really 4-bet against this too light. But I'd like to narrow the field, and if we get to the flop with a pot-sized bet left, there are a number of flops we can jam on. This is going to be an interesting one. Meanwhile, here we get check too, and given his turnover bet and the fact that now my 10 is counterfeited, so I don't even beat other aces, I'm just going to check this back. I think he's pretty polarized in this spot, so I don't see a reason to bet. Here I'm going to go with a small bet because I don't think anybody else is going to bet when I hold the ace of hearts. And this is something I can do with the aces with the lone ace of hearts. I could do it with some other hands, like occasionally some other bluffs. And flushes with this SPR are going to be hard pressed to fold, but they are pretty likely to check back. So I like getting this bet in. Yeah, I like getting this bet in. Catching up on chat here, although now I have aces. This is interesting. So I actually think if I had aces with the ace of hearts, I would jam here. So I guess that's what I'm going to do. It's like I really don't want to with this hand. But I think that's the best way to rep aces with the ace of hearts. So, and I don't think anybody's betting if I check. Rafik19 says, how much has Dwan helped you, your game? Tom helped my PLO game a lot. He's basically first taught me PLO. He actually convinced me to join some, I remember 200, 400 PLO was running, maybe it was 100, 200 with I think it was Gus Hansen, and a couple others. And he was like, Phil, these games are really good. You need to get in here. I said, Tom, I've never played PLO before. And he's like, no, trust me, you can beat these games. And I listened to him and I played and I could not beat those games. It actually happened again later with Horse, where there were some really good Horse games online and he convinced me to play. He might have been hustling me, I guess. But yeah, he threw me into the fire quick and then gave me a lot of advice, which was really generous. He was when I met Tom, I was playing 5-10 no limit, and he was playing the 50, 100, 100, 200, the biggest game spread online at that point, I think, and was always really generous with offering advice, answering questions, anything like that. We had a 10 big blind splash. Not a good enough hand to raise, even against a bunch of limps, which are probably weak, and I don't think a good enough hand to continue here in a 6-way pot. You have to be really tight in multi-way pots. Over here, we've got Rockets. And on this board, this is just going to be a fold, even against half pot. I'm pretty low in my range. This is a good bluff spot when I play this way, because I've kind of said I don't have much two-pair by the turn, because 10-8 bets the flop, kings up bets the turn. And I don't connect with this 7 very often, so good bluff spot, but I still think it's fold. Meanwhile, I get 4-bet with aces. I just call. The stack-to-pot ratio is going to be pretty low, so there's no need to... I think that, him folding pre-flop when I have aces and 80% equity is going to be disastrous, so let's keep in his bluffs. Obviously, if he has kings or queens, the money's going in, or ace-king, but I probably stack him anyways in those cases. And the question now is... I actually don't think it's a question. I think you continue calling here. Again, if he has bluffs, my hand's not invulnerable, but, likely way ahead. And if he has bluffs, this is a good card for him to keep bluffing on. And if he does have kings and queens, this is the risk of slow playing, but it's a pretty small risk when I hold 2 aces, only 2 left in the deck for them to hit. And I think, at least if you're up against capable opponents who are capable of doing a lot of bluffing, you want to make sure that you keep those bluffs in. If you're up against people who just basically have aces, kings, or ace-king when they 4-bet, then just shove pre-flop.